Wargroove is a runaway train of turn-based tactical splendor, but should it have spent longer in the station? Let's find out. Wargroove's story focuses around an assassination, an ancient war, and an evil weapon that your protagonist set out to find and destroy. To mention any more than that would be to rob you of the experience of discovering the story yourself. I will say though that I wasn't expecting to care much for the story when I first jumped in, but I was gladly mistaken. Adding to this, one of the many great things about Wargroove is that the developers have included campaign and cutscene editors. Using these, you can create your own story, but it doesn't end there. You can download other players' custom campaigns, so the stories are as limitless as the player base's imaginations. If you haven't already seen our 11 things to be excited about video on Wargroove, I recommend it if you want more backstory on the franchise and what the game includes, and I'll leave a link above just in case. To summarise briefly though, Wargroove is a turn-based strategy game of a similar ilk to Fire Emblem and Advanced Wars. You capture villages to receive a regular income of gold, spend the gold to recruit infantry, cavalry, artillery, and so on. Every unit is strong against certain other units but weak to another. It goes a bit further than the familiar rock, paper, scissors triangle you see in Fire Emblem, simply due to the variety of units, but here's a basic example of this. Dogs beat soldiers, soldiers are effective against archers, up close anyway, and archers beat dogs. I did find unfortunately that the icons to indicate what a unit was effective and weak against are too small. You can use the codex as a reference to learn more, but it would have been nice if they were more obvious. Your goal in each mission you play is usually to defeat the enemy commander or their stronghold, but occasionally you need to flee to safety or rescue villagers. This variety was welcome in the campaign, but did leave arcade mode feeling a little one-dimensional, as you only ever have one objective there: defeat 5 commanders in a row. It didn't capture my interest, but I can see the appeal. There's a myriad of modes to play in Wargroove though, and I particularly enjoyed puzzle mode. These little one-turn scenarios have you bending the battlefield to your will to complete your goal. From what I could tell, there's only one solution per puzzle, and this makes completing them incredibly rewarding. Something that really surprised me though was the map editor. I'm not usually one for level editors. I mucked about a bit with Halo 3's Forge back in the day, but that's about the extent of my creativity. Wargroove's map editor had me hooked though. The UI is intuitive, you can get really creative with the units, tiles, and scenery that can be placed, and you can even turn your levels into their own campaigns, complete with unique cutscenes and secret triggers. It's certainly not perfect. I wish there was a button to rotate whatever you're holding, but there doesn't seem to be one. But it's a ton of fun and caught me by surprise. As much as I enjoyed the rewarding tactical gameplay, I couldn't help but feel that something was off with Wargroove. Compared to the fluid, dynamic combat system that Into the Breach brought to the Switch last year, Wargroove feels a little restrictive and unforgiving. You don't have the option of moving multiple units and then deciding what action they should take, and there's no undo or reset turn option. One accidental button press 2 hours into a mission can completely ruin the entire operation. If you slip up and leave your knight in range of a pikeman, then you'll lose a unit and your positional advantage on the battlefield, but if you leave your commander in a vulnerable position, then it's game over. I had this happen a couple of times, and it's incredibly disheartening to lose hours of progress to a simple misinput. This was fine for shorter missions. I was often able to get an S rank on my first attempt, but I had to repeat some missions 5 or more times before I could complete them. This might be exactly the slow-paced trial of methodical planning that hardcore veterans are looking for, but it's worth noting that even some of the earliest story missions will take 20 to 30 turns of near-perfect decision-making. Some people thrive on challenge, but I can definitely see this being too punishing for others. Fortunately, there's an excellent set of difficulty sliders that let you tailor the campaign experience to your level. You can increase or decrease the damage you take, how much gold you receive each turn, and how quickly your commander's groove power will charge. The lead designer and CEO of Chucklefish even released a tweet advocating their use. There's little incentive to increase any of these, except for personal bragging rights perhaps, but decreasing them inhibits your ability to get 3 stars on a mission. The most you can get on easy mode is 1. Returning to the CEO's tweet for a second, I just wanted to highlight the second point he made. Ranking is based on how few turns it takes to complete a map. This doesn't quite sit right with me, because the number of units you defeat or lose aren't taken into account, you're just scored on how quickly you complete the mission. It's this approach that meant Valkyria Chronicles was broken by the Scout Rush. People will find the quickest way to end the level and throw careful tactics aside. I just wish there was more to the ranking system, but it probably won't affect many players. If I sound critical, it's only because I loved playing Wargroove, and I hope the developers can extend the love and care that they've put into crafting the game into some quality of life patches. If they were to include some flexibility in how you can move your units or the option to undo a mistake, this would easily be my favourite strategy game by far. Wargroove's audio is incredible, a real delight. Not only are the songs epic in scale and grandeur, but the sounds of battle are well done too. The clangs of swords and the rumble of wooden siege engines never feel dull or out of place. The sound team clearly put a lot of love and attention into the audio. And though the cutscenes in-game are mostly text, they are interspersed with some very good voice acting too. For the amount of text in-game, I think this was a good compromise. It would have been an exhausting, costly task to have every line of dialogue fully voiced, and the morsels you do get really liven up the cutscenes on their own.
This is tiresome.
As for the visuals, the animations, sprites, cutscenes and commanders in Wargroove are all gorgeous. Admittedly, the pixel art style on display doesn't quite have the same visual wonder that it did 2 years ago on announcement, but you can hardly blame Chucklefish for the slew of other pixel art games that have released since then. There's no touchscreen control option here, which would have been especially perfect for the map editor, but alas, this is a multi-platform release and it would have taken the developers significant time and resources to code this into Wargroove for just the Switch version. The game runs perfectly in handheld mode and was surprisingly kind on the battery, which is nice to see too. Wargroove costs a measly $19.99 or £15.99 in the UK, which for the extensive content included is frankly a steal. I would have happily paid more, and we also have price parity across all systems, which is always a bonus. Thanks to the hours and hours of replay value and the comparatively low price, it gets full marks for value, and that's a rating I've never given before. So on to the verdict. Where does Wargroove line up in the strategy game platoon? To me, it's a near perfect showing, with only a few design choices that hold it back from being truly flawless. It can frustrate you at times, so it might not be the best game to play for a marathon gaming session, but it will keep pulling you back, so it's perfect to have in a rotation of 2 or 3 games that keep your interest. It's a 9 out of 10 from me, a must play for anyone that enjoys a good strategy game, brain teaser, or map editor. This isn't just a one-way street though, we'd love to hear your opinion. Have you been enjoying Wargroove? Do you have a different opinion, or are you maybe still on the fence about picking it up? Leave a comment down below to let us know your thoughts, and please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoy the content we put out. If you're really a fan of the strategy genre, check out some of our other reviews. We'll see you next time.